Welcome to the Melanin Jelly Project Conversations, a podcast that celebrates diversity and representation in children's storytelling, entertainment, and edutainment. I am the host, Olunosen Louisa Ivaze. On this podcast, I chat with authors and creators of children's books, entertainment, and edutainment. This is also a collaboration with the Ottawa Black Book Club. Welcome, Abena Eyeson, the author of Looking Up. Welcome to the Melanin Jelly Project.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Melanin Jelly Project Conversations. My name is Olunosen Louisa Ivaze. I'm the host of this lovely podcast. I'm also the founder of the Ottawa Black Book Club. So when I set up that book club, because when I moved to Ottawa, I realized there was a gap in, just creating a safe space where multicultural group of book lovers could come together and read books focused on authors of African and Black descent. So I decided to start that. So we've been running for going to 4 years now. And when I started writing I've always written for adults. So when I started writing for children, I realized also that we didn't have podcasts that celebrate diverse authors. So that's why I started this podcast. And when I put out a call for books and authors interested, the goal was just to do 54 podcasts and go and rest. I was shocked at the response and the number of others who reached out to me. And 54 because every Friday of the year. Yeah. But the rate at which we are going, I don't know. I feel in the end we might have to start putting out 2 episodes a week. That's the rate.
Wow.
Yes, the rate at which we are going. I thank God. I'm not complaining. I'm grateful. So, thank you so much once again for sending this book. Tell me about yourself and what inspired you to write this story. Because when I was reading it, it just dawned on me that I hadn't actually read a book about an African teenager's immigration experience. It's really about the adults, how they struggle with family, but not from a child's point of view. So So tell me what inspired you to write this.
Okay, so first of all, my journey I call myself a British Ghanaian writer. Okay. So I was born in Ghana, but since I was a child, I've lived in the UK, and I'm now married with 3 children of my own.
Okay.
And so one of the reasons why I decided to start writing fiction, I'm an academic, I have a PhD.
Okay.
But I hadn't written fiction till probably about when I started to write Looking Up. So I'm new to fiction in that way.
Okay.
But I started to write fiction because my children were growing up without seeing our stories on the page. Okay. That's what pushed me to start writing. And when I decided I was going to write fiction, the idea that came to me was this character, Issy, and exploring the idea of a child being left behind and what that does when they are reunited with their parents. Okay. I had a visit from an aunt who came with her niece, who was not my relative, so from the other side of her family. And she had that experience. So she came to my home and we were talking, and she was talking about how the relationship between her and her mother was I don't know how to put it in words. It was not natural.
Okay.
So that separation between them had created a void in their relationship where their mother was sometimes too strict, very authoritarian, or she was very pally, very friendly. She was like the mother was trying to work out how to parent the child because that separation had broken the bond, had broken the relationship. So that idea stuck in my head. And when I decided I was going to write a book, that was the idea I wanted to explore. And then it developed into more than that. It became almost like a way of telling the immigrant story.
Okay. So
like sharing with a child the immigrant story, but from their perspective. Yeah. So that's how it came about.
Cool. Yeah, because when I was reading it, I did my postgraduates in the UK, and I could to some extent, I could resonate a little with what she was going through, that homesickness, leaving home. But I was already an adult when I went to the
yes.
But from a child's viewpoint, and it's interesting how parents usually see it as, oh, you are going to a better life.
Exactly.
Yes, and I don't know. I think as adults, we take a lot of things for granted. We always feel that, he's a child. A child will outgrow it. Before you know, speaking with the British accent, they'll forget about hope. Parents don't think. Anyway, I always say there is no manual on the perfect parenting.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's okay.
You do your best.
Yes, you do your best, and there is room for forgiveness, because one mistake we have is that, oh, I'm going to be angry with my parents for doing this for the next 20 years, and then they pass away. Then you now see regret. Oh, why didn't I make peace? Yeah. I like your style of writing. Your style of writing is very traditional. And why I'm using the word traditional is I like that you use words like, I had to write them down here, the language, center table, terrazzo floor, veranda. It's so Nigerian. When I was reading it, I said, it doesn't get more Nigerian than this. I've been to Accra twice. Yes, I've been to Accra twice. Yeah. So I was just looking at it. I said, these people, it's so interesting how similar,
Exactly.
we are. Yeah, how similar we are. And I'm looking at it. Why do you think parents? Because I was gonna ask. When parents migrate, when they move to a different country, that many times, because it's a very difficult thing to leave your child behind. Yeah, a lot of people always say, oh, the person is just there enjoying life and she's left her children here. Most of the time, they don't know what parents go through. That separation, what that separation does to you as a parent emotionally. So why do you think parents make that sacrifice to say, you know what, let me go there and prepare the ground for you before sending for you? Why do you think parents do that?
I think it's done with the best of intentions. They're going somewhere where they have no support.
Okay.
They're going to a foreign land where they have no support. So they feel that they need to go and get the job, find somewhere to live, put some money together, find a school, all of that. And I think sometimes they also come with the mindset that, oh, it won't take long.
Okay.
It won't take long before I can send for my child. And then things happen and it takes much longer than they expected.
Okay.
So that's the scenario in this book, is that it takes much longer for her mother to call for her than expected. And in the meanwhile, the child, Essie in that sense, has got used to living with her grandmother.
Okay.
She's not unhappy. So she's found security and love and comfort where she is and she's got used to the way her life is. So when she's called for, in fact, for her, it is disruptive. For her, it is a wrench to leave the security of her life, to go to live with a mother who's effectively become a bit of a stranger.
Okay.
And what's interesting for me about this story is that, I don't know if you've heard of the Windrush. In the UK, they talk about the Windrush, which is when the Caribbeans came to the UK to come and work in the NHS and on the bus, etc., after the Second World War.
Yes.
And a lot of them also experienced that, where the parents came ahead and left their children behind with the grandparents. And then later, the children joined them. So I think it's not just, if you like, an African thing. I think it's an immigrant thing where a lot of immigrants will leave their children behind, thinking that they don't know what they're going into, I guess. And so now, once they're secure, then they will call for the child, not taking into account what it would do to their relationship with their child. Yeah.
Another thing I want to talk about too is the culture. Do I use the word culture shock? You know, when we sit down, the houses we see everything in the movies. And I think just like Nigeria, Ghana too was colonized by the British.
Yes.
The Ghanaian curriculum and the reading material will also be very British. Yes, because I grew up with all the Enid Blytons, the shows we had then on TV were British shows and all of that. So most of the time you always feel that life over there is better. And then the first shock you experience when you get there is the way the houses are. And you tell them, my house back home is bigger than this house.
Yeah.
We have a maid. We have a gate man. But here we have to do everything ourselves. We don't back home we have a driver that takes us everywhere. But then you come to the almighty London, you have to take the bus. You are sharing your flat. In fact, the walls are so thin that you can hear your neighbor coughing. How do you think this affects children?
So you have that image of the UK, that is you find in the books and the films, which is not real life. And so you come to UK and you face real life, and real life is very different from what you perceive real life to be. And what I think happens as well is that when we come to the UK, when we go back home, we don't tell them the nitty-gritty or exactly what life is like. We give them the edited version, the version we want them to see. So, and I guess also with a child, you can't prepare them in that way. You can't really say, when you come on the bus, etc. You just expect them to get on with it. But so what I wanted to do in terms of noticing her observations was almost a way of chronicling how I felt when I came to the UK. Some of the things that we noticed that people may not necessarily have expected us to notice. Yeah. So that was why I was quite intentional in my observations for her.
Yeah, it's interesting how as adults, when you come to the UK, when you go abroad for the first time, especially depending on the social class you belong to. Yes, the rich ones, they've always traveled, so they take it for granted. But depending on the kind of the social class you belong to, a lot of times when I see pictures, the photo starts with you at the airport.
Yeah.
In fact, I saw one when he got to the US, he took a photo by the elevator. Yes. Then, but then you take a picture in front of your house. But the almighty picture you're waiting for is that picture. Take a picture in the snow and then make it your display picture. That really, I remember back in the day then, before I moved to Canada, when we'll see pictures. Yes, I had been to the UK, I lived in the UK. The UK is 5 hours from Nigeria. So and I don't know, that thing is not, that awe is not there anymore because I'm almost like, especially when you go to Peckham, the UK, I said, it's like Lagos. It's just a little upgraded from Lagos. The only difference is the pound and that you have more white people. That's all, the currency. But when I used to see Canada, I used to see pictures of my friends in Canada. They'll be all dressed up in heels and all of that. I went, wow, is this how people in this country dress? And then when I moved here, I asked myself, what's going on here? Nobody cares. Nobody cares. And then you find out that when you go to these parties with these friends, they are always the ones who are overdressed. Every other person doesn't care. So it's just interesting. And then I'm looking at her experience, like when her mom was telling her that she will have to start to do the housework, and the way she reacted to that. Back home, she and Amma will assist Irene.
Yes.
So here now she has to do that. Then her experience in school. Speak to us about, because you are talking from, I would say, a point of authority, because you experienced it as a child. I was a child in Nigeria. So as a child coming into a new culture, how do you think this affects children?
I think it can be quite destabilizing. I mean, I remember when my parents used to work, my mom worked in the UN, and that's why I left Ghana.
Okay.
And so the first school I came to wasn't actually in the UK, it was in Switzerland. Okay. And it was an international school. And I remember the first day I said my name, So my full name is Abena Eyeson. Eyeson is my middle name.
Okay.
And everybody in Ghana used to call me Eyeson. Eyeson was my grandmother's name.
Okay.
So I was going to say, my name is Abena Eyeson, but everyone calls me Eyeson. Okay. But I said Abena, and what I heard back was Abena. And I thought, well, why is he saying Abena? So I repeated it, Abena. And he said Abena. And I was like, okay, so if he can't say Abena, he can't say Eyeson. And so that's why I became Abena. I only ever use Abena, and that's how it's been since then. So I think it's how do I put it? For a child, everything you know, everything you take for granted is almost turned on its head. Okay. It's a new way of looking at the world that you have to get used to very quickly, because you're kind of dropped in it, and you have to get used to the different words. We learn English, but we learn Queen's English.
Yes.
And that's not what's spoken in day-to-day life. So you have to get used to all the little idioms, all the little sayings, get used to how people interact with each other, all of that, and assumptions that are made about you, which you never encountered before. Almost like, your education somehow is not up to what they're used to. And you're thinking about, why is that? All of that. Those little microaggressions that you will come across, and that can be quite bewildering because you've never experienced it before. All of that, I think, makes starting a new school especially challenging. And it may not be obvious to your parents that it's challenging, because they think they brought you to the UK, they brought you to a British school, so you should just kind of get on with it. But there are lots of little challenges that a child has to overcome when they first start school. Yeah.
It's like it takes me back to my childhood, because my dad was in the police force, so we lived everywhere and starting a new school. So I remember nursery school was different. Primary school, I attended 3 primary schools.
I see.
It was different, but I will never forget moving because we're born in the north. So moving from the north, where I was a child running free, playing free, speaking Hausa, and then down south, back home, and starting this new school where we had children speaking Pidgin English.
Yeah.
And were aggressive, yes, which in the north I didn't experience. So we were up there, and then finding myself in this Air Force school with children that grew up in the barracks. Yes, we lived in the barracks, but my dad was the commandant. So we were not mixing with the barrack children. So I will never, so for me, it was a shock.
Yeah.
And one of the first things I had to learn there was how to improve my Pidgin English. So in this, so I hate, when children have to change schools. Now I have that empathy because I know how challenging and how difficult it can be. So what was the deal with her father? Because what was the deal with her father? Because I know that, when you started it off by, let me say, at the first early mention of her father, you said, the only thing I know about my father are that I have his surname. My middle name, Asantewa, is his mother's name. And when I was 4 years old. So what was the deal with her father?
Okay. So to create the family friction, the reason why the mother went to the UK was because she separated from her husband. And then she was a nurse in Ghana, and she separated from her husband and decided that the way she can improve her life and her child's life is to go and work abroad where she can earn more money. So the impetus for her going abroad was because she had separated from the father. And it had been a bitter separation, so she had cut ties with him. So the result of that was that AC had completely lost memory, lost any relationship with her father, and had lost memory of him because it was when she was 4, when she was very young. And so she's had questions about her father, but because in that kind of bubble of her grandmother's house, where she had the love of her grandmother, she had the relationship with her cousin Amma, and she was happy. She was able to push it to the back of her mind. But when she was out of that bubble and on the plane, all of a sudden, all those questions, all the worry about her mother, how's it going to be living with her mother who she doesn't know very well, and then the questions start coming about, and what about her dad? Maybe she will find out more about her dad if she go and live with her mother.
Okay.
And so so I start to kind of feed that into the story. So the father is a theme in the book.
Okay.
So even though you don't see him early on in the book, when AC and her mother, when AC joins her mother, they go to church.
Okay.
And the way the mother has been going to church is she goes to church, but she keeps her distance. Okay. So she doesn't stay, she doesn't go have tea after church and all that. But when AC starts church, she goes to Sunday school. And when she's in Sunday school, she says her name to the lady who runs the Sunday school. And the Sunday school lady says, "But I know your name. You look like your grandmother." And she thinks, "Do I look like my grandmother?" And she's thinking about her mother's mother, the only grandmother she knows.
Yeah,
and she says, "Nobody has ever told me I look like Nana Nancy." She says, "No, you look like Asantua." And that's when she realizes that, oh my God, somebody here knows my dad. And she thinks, this is how I'm going to find out more about my dad. But when the lady sees her mother after church, and the mother realizes that this woman knows her, as in knows her husband's family, she runs. So, and then they don't go back to church for a while because her mother really, it's like she's cut the husband off, she's cut that family off. She's so hurt by her husband that she doesn't want any contact.
Okay.
Not realizing what that is doing to the child. But little by little, you get little clues. AC picks up little clues about, for example, she gets the idea that maybe she should search her mum's room when her mum's not at home, because she walks home to school because her mum's at work, walks home from school because her mum's at work, and can let herself into the flat. So when she's in the flat one day by herself, she looks under her mum's bed. She goes to her mum's room and looks under her mum's bed and finds a box with photos in them.
Okay.
And in those photos, she finds wedding photos, she finds photos of her dad, and she's so and she sees photos of her dad's mother, the one she's been told she looks like. So she's desperately trying to, do I look like her? So all these questions come up, and then in the middle of the story, something happens to the mother, and she ends up being hospitalized, and that news ends up reaching Ghana. And so when the mother comes out of hospital, the father turns up. That's how. So the father will appear. Father appears in the story. Yeah.
Okay. So I noticed. So when I was reading about you, I noticed you have a literary agent.
Yes.
Yes. So now you are not. So we first of all we regard you. You are not on the struggle bus anymore, looking for literary. You are not. You are
struggling. I'm not.
My adult novels are traditionally published, but like for my children's books, I had it was a struggle trying to find traditional publishing, struggle to find a literary agent. So I decided to do it on my own.
Yeah.
So how did you find your literary agents? Let's start with that.
So this one I did on my own, actually. I didn't look it up on my own. But my second book, I was determined I was going to get an agent.
Okay.
So the way, not that I knew exactly how to do it, but I decided I was going to give it everything and try.
Okay.
So I did a writing course. I started to put the book that I was working, my new book, started pushing it forward for competitions and prizes and all that. I started getting long listed, I was longlisted for a couple of things. I got not the main prize for one of them, but like a minor prize. But still, it got my name out there. You started getting some kind of credibility. And then I joined a critique group for writers critique group of people at a similar stage in their writing career. And, every meeting I would submit some of the work. It will get criticized, people say this and the other. And in all of that, you're just refining the story. And then I decided to start submitting last year to agents. And so I submitted to a lot of agents. But this particular one, when I first submitted, it's like the same day I got a full manuscript request. And then it went quiet. This was around March last year. And then it went quiet. So I was like, oh gosh, it's gone wrong. And then I got feedback from another source saying, I don't think the story is quite ready yet. And I thought, oh, maybe that's why then. So I decided to rework the story.
Okay.
Some of it, not all of it, but some of it over the last summer. Mm-hmm. And around September, I thought, okay, I think I'm ready. I think it's better now, actually. So I decided to send it back to this particular agent. And about a week later, I got a response saying, we're going to have another look.
Okay.
And then a couple of weeks later, I got an email from this lady saying, oh, sorry for not responding much earlier. And I started to see that, oh, maybe she's interested. So I showed my husband, I said, am I imagining things? Am I seeing things? And he said, no, it looks like it. She was asking, so have you found an agent yet? And all that. So I said, oh, I'm still looking. And then we did back and forth. And then in November, we spoke on the phone. And she said, the story's almost there.
Okay.
But you need to work on the hook. So I was thinking, oh my God, what does that even mean? What am I going to do? And all that. But we had a conversation about it. And then I went away and I was reading and I was thinking about it. And then I realized, okay, so maybe I think I know how to do this. So I emailed her back and said, I think I figured it out. I will send it to you before Christmas. So this was last year. And so before Christmas, I sent it to her. And then in January, she contacted me and said, oh, she's a bit behind with her reading, but she will read it. And then in February, she said, she's read it now and it's really moved on.
Okay.
So let's have a Zoom. So that's when I thought, oh my goodness, I think I've actually done this.
Oops.
And then we had a Zoom and she said, yeah, she thinks I've really moved it on. And so she wanted to offer to represent me. So that's how I did it.
So from what I've gathered, like many authors, work on your manuscript.
Yeah.
Get it critiqued.
Yes, absolutely.
And then put it out. Rejection don't matter. Just keep putting it out. Keep polishing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And do it in stages as well. So don't send it to every single agent. You do a 4 or 5 something. Wait for the response. Mm-hmm. And then you do it in stages so that you're not. And also, as from my experience was that even if an agent says no, and you work on it some more, it's worth sending it back to them.
Okay.
So that's how it worked with this, because I decided I was going to send it back. If I hadn't sent it back, I would still not have an agent. You know what I mean? So I decided to send it back. Yeah.
Because I know I've had a few agents ask for my full work. So, but like in 2007, I had an agent ask for my full work. And she said, well, I really enjoyed your story, but I'm not in love with it. And I went, okay. Then I think I reworked it. I kept sending it back to her, and I think she eventually blocked me.
I see.
Yeah. Then another one that said, this was an agent in Canada who said, your story, it needs more reworking.
Yeah.
You need to rework. So what I did, I just decided to do was, you know what? Let me just write stories, send off to publishers in Nigeria. And it's interesting how I had this manuscript I had put on the back burner that I just thought this is just a story. It's just me putting together, life experiences around the barrack where I grew up.
Yeah.
And I had sent it off to the agent, and sent it to the publisher, and she looked at it. She said, well, all these things you're writing about, it's culture. Do you have anything else, anything current? I said, well, I have one dry manuscript I can share if you want to look at it. Go send it to me. And I sent it to her, and she went, this is it. And I'm like, and till date, that's my best-selling book.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because I was wondering, but you like all this, there's pidgin English in it. She said it's authentic.
Yeah.
She said it's authentic. And that year, I had so many book clubs in Nigeria, reading the book, talking about it. And I said, okay, self-doubt. So how important do you think it is for children or young people to open books and read about experiences similar to theirs?
I think it is so important, especially for the children in the diaspora. Because I think it's very, very easy to get lost. You don't see yourself on the page. You don't see yourself around you. You don't see yourself on the page. You don't see yourself in the films. It's very, very easy to feel invisible. And it doesn't necessarily have to be explicit, but it's the messages you're getting, isn't it? The message you're getting may not necessarily be said to you, but it's been drip to you every day. I think it's so important that they see themselves on the page. And not only them, but actually people who are not even from the diaspora, the white, whatever. It's for them to get a glimpse into the lives of people who they may be sharing experiences with, who they may be going to school with, to get a glimpse into how they live, to walk in their shoes. I think it's really important. It's really important that the books that they are exposed to are, cover a range. It's not the same story being told over and over again, the same types of characters being told over and over again, but there's a range of characters, because then you develop empathy, you develop, being able to relate to people who don't look like you or don't act like you. I think it's really important.
Okay. So what would you say are some of the challenges diverse authors experience when trying to tell diverse stories and put those stories out there?
They get told it's a niche story. Yeah. That's what I got with looking up. But then I went into looking up, like I said, I had no track record as a writer, of fiction anyway. And so I went into it thinking the most difficult thing was writing the book.
Okay.
Only to find out that not just writing the book, it's trying to get the book published. That's even more of a challenge. Yeah, because I had no track record. I hadn't done any writing courses. I hadn't joined any critique groups. I hadn't done any, I wasn't part of any writers group or anything like that.
Okay.
And so that's why with my second book, I decided, you know what, I'm going to do all these things and create a writing CV, because that's what you want. You want to have a track record as a writer.
Yeah. So
that you can't be dismissed. That's what happens with, I think, black writers. We just get dismissed. But I think, I think that most, we don't know anybody in the publishing industry. Our stories are treated like they're niche. Only Black people will read them. Mm-hmm. They don't have any universal themes.
Okay.
And self-publishing, I think, is definitely a route, but it's more successful for some kinds of stories than for others. I think for children's publishing, self-publishing is challenging. I think it's challenging, but for some other genre, it works really well. Like romance, for example, I think self-publishing works well. So if you don't want the headache of trying to please the gatekeepers, as in the agents, and get through them, because without them, you really will not get published traditionally. Mm-hmm. If you don't want that, you can go down the self-publishing route, but it has its own headaches. It costs money, so you have to be willing to pay. And also you have to find good people to work with, like editors, and if you're going to pitch a book, illustrators and all that. So it costs money. You have to have a budget to do it. And you have to be willing to really learn a lot quickly. Because what I found with looking up, I have to learn I had to learn about book marketing. I had to learn about how to edit my own work, all of that. You have to really become multi-skilled. Yeah. I think it develops you as a writer though, but I think you do have to be able to willing to put the effort into it. Yeah.
Because I look at it and I think that, like a lady had said, apart from the fact that some agent had said, I like your work, but I'm not in love with it. Another agent had said, I really like your work, but I'm not confident enough to sell it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think when they read Black stories by Black authors, there is this stereotypical expectation. It has to be about gangs, it has to be about absent fathers.
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm not used to reading about secure family units.
Yeah.
A bit of romance, a bit of success. They are not used to. So it's like saying, no, well, if we're trying to advertise a book by a Black author, it will sell better. Because again, whether we like it or not, even though as authors, our books are like our children, publishing is a business.
Yeah.
A publisher will only publish, even if it's rubbish, as long as they have the confidence that they can sell it and make money, they will publish. Your book might be a masterpiece, but if you feel, we can't sell this book, they'll let it go. They'll pass it over, and then somebody else who believes in that story. I mean, some people too might believe in a story but not be able to sell it.
Yeah, there's definitely that too.
Yeah.
I mean, so if an agent passes, sometimes it's a blessing in disguise because they may not have been able to be positive for you anyway. They may not have been able to get the goods for you anyway. Yeah. But I think as a writer, one of the things you have to learn is perseverance. You just have to keep trying. For example, there's her name's going to my head. There's a Nigerian writer here based in the UK who has had a book. I think there's two of them. The second one just come out, but the first one was set in the UK, set in London initially, and then it went into a kind of futuristic Nigeria.
Afro-futuristic. Hold on, Onyeka and the
Onyeka.
Peter Bible Smith.
Yeah. And reviewed it. And what's surprising is that it's a completely Black cast. You know how we try to make our books multicultural to overcome that thing of being called niche.
Okay.
But Onyeka is completely Black. The completely Black cast. Even when she's in London, she has a Nigerian best friend. She talks about her mother, but there are no white characters. She goes to Nigeria, and then it's all about this kind of Afro-futuristic Nigeria, and all the characters are Black. So what I'm saying is that, so that niche thing, some people are able to challenge it and break through. You see, so that's why I'm saying that as a writer, you have to really believe in what you're trying to do and keep working on it, but not give up. That's what I'm saying.
You know, when people approach me about writing, people refer a lot of people to me. Oh, talk to Louisa if you want to write, talk to Louisa if you want to write. And because I started writing from primary school. So I used to write comics then when I was in primary school. I write comics, my friend. You know, all those kind of comics you write when you're back home, the wicked stepmother, the disobedient child. So I would do all of that. Then when I got to secondary school, I started to write. When I started to read all the Mills and Boone, Pace Setters, I started to write teenage romance. And then before I moved to adult writing. So when I try to talk to people about writing and people approach me, the first thing I want to know is, I get put off when you start with, oh, so how can I make money? You know, because I need to make some money. The money. But the first thing for me is, it has to be about passion. A lot of people have not made a lot of money from writing because I'm always thinking about passion and I'm not thinking of the business side of things. But I always go, the reason why I talk about passion is, if you are telling a story, you have to tell a story that gets people here. Yeah. From here, it goes here. And then... But if you are thinking of just money, there's something in... So how do you think that as diverse authors, we can support each other in putting our work?
I mean, what you're doing right now is a kind of ideal way of doing it. And so I really applaud you for doing it. Yeah, I think it's fantastic. The podcasts, the book clubs, that's how we do it. We've got to build a community of writers where we support each other. We're willing to share experiences. We're willing to help each other move, because that's what white writers do as well. You'll find that a lot of them, this book comes out, her friend will put it on her social media, this friend will put it on her social media, and that's how they get it out. You have to have a circle of people who are interested in your success or interested in your book, willing to put a little bit of effort into amplifying your voice. And I think that's what we have to do as Black writers. We have to support each other. But we also have to be aiming to be developing our crafts, because writing is a craft. It is a skill. You develop it through working on it, being willing to get feedback. You have to be willing to get feedback. You don't write a first draft of a book and think, that's it, I've done it. You have to be willing to have people read it and give you their feedback. Some of it may not be pleasant, some of it may not be what you expect, but you have to be able to hear it, think about it, reflect on it, and figure out how it is you're going to use that feedback to improve your work. So the feedback of writing is critical, and you have to do it multiple times. You have to be willing to redraft until you can get it to as good a shape as you can get it into. So I think aiming for the best in terms of your own writing, aiming for the best, and that includes getting feedback and learning about the genre you're in as well, because it can be different depending on what you're doing. Okay. And just aiming to be as good as you can, and then also being willing to put yourself out. Go for prizes, go for competitions, get your work seen. Is what I'd also advise. Yeah.
Like I always say that every writer's prayer should be, or may my manuscript fall into the right hands at the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
So that's our prayer. Your book, your story doesn't have to be the best. It just has to find its way. It just has timing.
Yeah.
Yes, it's very, very important. Yeah. Would you like to read a portion of your book to us? Yeah, please.
Sure, I'd love to. Yeah.
Ask the authors. Yeah.
So I'll read from the beginning then. Okay. I'll read the first few pages.
Okay.
Yeah. So the first few pages, she's in her grandmother's house, just to set the scene. Yeah. Okay. So chapter 1.
Okay.
Why has Nana Nancy not turned the ceiling fan on? Doesn't she feel the heat? There was a slight breeze from the open louver blades in the windows facing the veranda, but still, the living room is so hot, almost as hot as it is outside. Nana hasn't even noticed that I walked in. Sitting on her favorite sofa, the brown leather one made by Mr. Osei, the furniture maker down the road. She's staring into space, deep in thought, as she hums to herself. Nana loves this living room full of furniture, family photos and ornaments. In fact, she loves this house, which she inherited from her parents when they died many years ago, and in which she raised Mommy and Auntie Sisi. I've heard Nana talk many times about how much the house means to her. I have to say that the house means a lot to me too. Since the age of 4, it's been a place where I felt loved, safe, and happy. Every time I walk in, I have this warm sensation and feel like I'm home. Smiling, I say, "Good afternoon, Nana Nancy," as I walk towards her. Her face lights up as she turns to me, looking much younger than her 63 years of age. "Oh, good, Essie. You're home. Come and sit down, my dear," she says, patting the seat next to her. I have good news. Wondering what the news could be, I go and sit beside her. "Essie, Maggie called this morning, Nana says, looking excited as she clasps both my hands in hers. Baffled as to why this is good news, as Mummy often calls, I ask, how is Mummy? She's well, I see, and sends her love. But the reason why she called is that she has finally sorted things out so you can go and live with her in London. She's sending the money for your plane ticket, and at the end of August, you'll be flying out to join her. Nana's eyes sparkle with happiness. I smile at her as she's clearly expecting me to be pleased with the news. But in truth, I don't feel exactly happy. More shocked. I wasn't expecting this at all. Mummy has been working in London so long that I've gotten used to her living there and me living here with Nana. But that means that in less than 3 months' time, I'll be leaving. The words slip out of my mouth as it dawns on me. Yes, I see, says Nana with a big smile. In less than 3 months' time, you'll be living with your mummy once again. Thanks be to God. But I'm not thanking God. Panic is making my head pound as I think about leaving Nana, Amma, and Sisi, this house and everything I know behind to go to London by myself. I don't want that. Yes, it would be nice to see Mummy, but I don't want to live in London. I might be living right here. Nana carries on talking, oblivious to my turmoil. How I've been praying for Maggie to send for you. Every child should live with their mother, is. It has worried me that you and Maggie have lived apart for years. Letting go of my hands, she picks up the white handkerchief on her lap and mops her forehead before waving it in the air, saying, "Thank you, God, for answering my prayers." She leans on the armrest and pushes herself up to her feet. Danase, Danase, Daoyamease. She starts to sing, thanking God. Swaying from side to side, she slowly makes her way around the large wooden center table, singing and waving her handkerchief in the air, her brown sandals tapping the terrazzo floor. "Hey, Mama, you're in fine voice this afternoon," Auntie Sisi says, beaming at Nana. Auntie Sisi looks just like a younger version of Nana, slender and petite with a kind face. She and Amma have just walked into the living room. When we arrived from school a short while ago, I headed straight to the living room, but Auntie Sisi went to speak to Irene in the kitchen, while Amma disappeared upstairs to use the bathroom. Nana stopped singing to happily tell them the news, adjusting her green head tie as she does so. Auntie Sisi and Amma start to jubilate loudly before rushing over to hug me. Amma links her arm through mine and sits down beside me. Auntie Sisi shakes her curly weave from side to side and sings loudly as she follows Nana, who has just started singing and dancing around the center table again. "You're so lucky, girls," Amma says, resting her cornrowed head on my shoulder. "Don't feel lucky," I say grumpily, absolutely certain I'd much rather stay here than go to London. "Come on, Essie, of course you are. I wish I could go to London." Amma smiles and winks, a dimpled face looking at me. "Maybe you can put me in your suitcase when you go. I'm sure nobody will notice. I'm only small after all." I smile at her as she laughs, wishing I could take her with me. I would be much happier about moving to London if she was coming. Amma starts to clap for Nana and Auntie Sisi as they dance and sing. Then she gets up to join them, singing at the top of her voice and shaking herself vigorously in her blue and white school dress, which is oversized like mine. The intense afternoon heat has them sweating before too long. Damp patches appear in Nana's green cover, and Auntie Cece's white work blouse. But they don't stop. I don't move. I can't move. I'm biting my tongue to stop myself screaming at them. I don't want to go. I don't want to leave you. But I can't say it out loud. Look at them. They won't understand. So with a smile fixed on my face, I watch them as a feeling of dread settles in the pit of my tummy. End of chapter 1.
Thank you so much. What would you like to see for your books? That's this book and the future books that you plan to write. What do you hope to see for your books?
I mean, my goal for myself, I'm going to say it out loud, is that I will be in libraries and schools and bookshops around the world. That's my goal for myself.
So if people want to buy your books, where can they find your books to buy?
So it's on Amazon in all the regions.
Amazon.
There are also some other online bookshops that stock it because it's distributed through Ingram.
Okay, Ingram. I was going to ask you that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. But Amazon is like the first place you can go. Okay. But also other online bookshops will have it.
Okay.
And what's only available on Amazon?
Okay, what are your social media handles in case people want to follow you?
Okay, so on Instagram, I am at looking up.
Okay, at looking
_AB.
Okay. At looking up. Okay.
Yeah. My website is Abena Eyeson Writes.
Okay.
As one word. And all my social media links you can get to them through that as well.
Okay.
I'm on Twitter. I hope I remember this correctly. I think I'm EY_ABS.
Okay.
So yeah. But if you search for Abena Eyeson, it would come up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Abena. Have a nice Saturday.
Same to you. Thank you for having me.